Rui 5, also known as Deeper and Deeper, was long awaited by the Project Sekai fandom due to the fact that it released about a year and a half after Rui's last main focus story, Backlit Lens Flare. Many fans desperately wanted an angsty story with heavy emotional weight. The wait was so long, jokes like the Rui 5 controversy is that they're not releasing it, and this time they'll just remove Rui from the game, gained popularity among fans. The jokes referencing past controversy with Rui events. Those being Revival My Dream, releasing only on the Japanese server. The removal of Curtain Call's commission song due to the actions of the producer. The temporary removal of the Cyberpunk Dead Boy 2D MV. It turns out that this time, all that happened was issues with the server. So what is Rui 5 about? Why does it matter? Well, my fellow menaces to society, that's what I'm going to explain. But before we dive into this new chapter of Rui's story, we need some context. His first focus is It's On Wonder Halloween. In this event, Tsukasa gets hurt as the result of one of Rui's creations, and Rui starts subconsciously holding back to protect himself from Tsukasa leaving him like other people in his past. This is resolved by a discussion with Kaito where Rui realizes how his past was affecting his behavior. The event ends with Rui being happy that he finally has people who accept him and his ideas. His second focus event is Revival My Dream. This is Rui's origin story as a theater kid and a director. It shows his alienation from his peers as a child and how he has always felt different from others because he's autistic. It tells of him and Nene's first meeting and them seeing a musical together, the musical that sparked their love of theater. In this event, we see 7-year-old Rui try to put on a show with his classmates and is unfortunately rejected by them, but now, as a teenager, is about to put on that same show, signifying his changed circumstances. His third focus event is Final Farewell at the Curtain Call. In this event, Wonderland's Next Showtime collabs with actors from Arkland, including accomplished actor Asahi Genbu. While everyone enjoys putting their show together, when Asahi asks Rui a job directing at Arkland, Rui feels very conflicted, realizing that though taking the offer would be the best option to get closer to his dream, he cares about Wonderland's Showtime and staying with them more. Fourth focus event, Backlit Lens Flare. In this event, Wonderland's Next Showtime are all extras in the movie that stars Reki Bakuno, a character who first appeared in Tsukasa's fourth focus. Rui helps out the movie's director, but when problems begin to arise, he begins to neglect himself. The problems end up resolved, and everything seems fine. This is also the first appearance of Sakaki, a character majorly important to Deeper and Deeper, although he wasn't named in the event. So, what happens in Rui 5? If you're already familiar and don't need a refresher, this section is just me going through the storyline of the event. Well, as we know, Wonderland's Next Showtime has been training their skills with different troops. They've trained with 3 different troops, but now the 4 of them are going to workshops at Arkland that will teach them a lot. Rui, of course, goes to the directing workshop. Teaching it, among unnamed others, is the aforementioned Sakaki, who apparently is a very skilled, award-winning director, and the director that's most inspired Rui since childhood, Tom Gray. Rui is absolutely ecstatic about this and excited to learn. Everyone in the workshop is given the assignment to do a small scene themed around rain to showcase their skills. Sakaki is harder on Rui and telling him that his shows lack depth and that they're boring. It's interesting to note that while criticizing Rui, the light goes out of Sakaki's eyes momentarily. Anyway, workshop participants are allowed to attend a dress rehearsal of a show at Arkland's Center Theater, so when the show of course goes. Asahi is playing the lead role, and the show has been directed by Tom Gray. The show, Goodbye Ghost, follows a man named Luke who lost his family at a young age, who is kind-hearted yet difficult. He inherits an old mansion from a relative. He wants to sell the mansion, so he grants the wishes of the ghosts living there so they can go to the afterlife. However, once the last ghost is about to leave, he realizes how he doesn't want to be alone and how much warmth the companionship of the ghosts brought to his life. While watching, Rui deeply analyzes the techniques used to tell the story and drive the emotion home and the themes. Rui thinks to himself that no matter how much he tries to learn from the directing style and techniques, he's nowhere close to knowing how to make a show with something so beautiful. His skills just aren't there. That night, Rui wonders how to make a show with that same kind of depth. He thinks about it constantly, trying to come up with ideas at all times, but he can't think of anything interesting. His friends start to notice exhaustion and worry, with Tsukasa telling him that he can understand wanting to push yourself, but not to push himself too far. He tells them that he's tired, but okay, and goes back to worrying them. Later, he goes to Sekai, hoping it will help him think, but his brain feels mixed up and he falls asleep. While asleep, he has a nightmare. In the nightmare, he can't move, and a voice asks Rui why he won't look at them, saying something like, "Just because you don't want to look doesn't mean I'm not there." Luca, who saw him looking distressed in his sleep, goes and wakes him up. She tells Rui he might need help to see something he doesn't get yet, and to help him. The next day, Rui has a video meeting with Tom Gray, where he explains his problems and asks for advice. Tom says he's doing well with a lot of things already, but to add more depth, he needs to add more raw personal feelings and experiences to his shows, rather than just thinking of the emotion he wants to give to the audience. Rui recalls his experiences of alienation and loneliness, of people leaving, but also the happiness of finding his friends. He resolves to put these emotions into his show. The next two parts of the event focus on the show that Rui makes, and I really think that deserves its very own section of the video. This event was perfectly set up by backlit lens flare. Not only was Sakaki's appearance hinted at, but it also brings up Rui's tendency to disregard his physical well-being for the sake of creative work, which was established beforehand, but not in a main event story, which is brought up more and deeper, especially in a few of the side stories. It's also nice that he had a bit of a break from emotional torment between Curtain Call and Deeper. This is exactly how focus events should work together, instead of perhaps 3 focus events in a row that do next to nothing for a character. Why would they do something like that? Anyway, why is this such a key point in Rui's story? Well, first off, Rui's skills have never really been called into question before. His previous conflicts focus on his past or his abandonment issues or worry over what the future holds, but never really his direction skills, despite the fact how he's always trying to improve. Sakaki's comment likely hit him hard. Not just, "This particular scene you made was boring, but you make boring shows," to a person who has dedicated their entire life to theater. I feel like the story before this event almost treated Rui like he was perfect skill-wise, so acknowledging that he still has a long way to go and isn't perfect is important, both for the story and the people reading it. Rui, in typical Rui fashion, didn't open up about his feelings of inadequacy and only felt bad for inconveniencing his friends when he was taking a while coming up with a show. Rui cares more about the quality of a show rather than his own well-being, another example being when he hurts his ankle, and he doesn't tend to ask for help unless prompted, and I think this is a great demonstration of that, especially how, when both coming up with an idea for the show and working on it, he barely ate and slept, which is concerning. I know this is normal for Rui, but it's still not good for him. Let's talk about Rui's nightmare. Obviously, it was his middle school self speaking. "Just because you don't want to look doesn't mean I'm not there." Maybe referring to Rui not wanting to think of or remember his experiences and feelings from that time because it's too hard and messy and painful. And Rui is not good with his own emotions. Him getting to meet Tom Gray, at least through video call, is also quite notable. This is the man that's inspired him creatively almost his whole life. Getting advice directly from him, advice that turned out to be very helpful, is a huge event in Rui's life, and further proof that this is a major turning point in Rui's storyline. The fact that he wasn't able to be there in person and have a live 2D model makes me think this isn't the only time that he'll appear. As someone who likes stage directors, if I ever met Rachel Chavkin, director of Hadestown and other stuff, I'd explode into glitter with excitement, so props to him for being to act chill. What makes this event the most important to Rui's storyline is probably the play. Now, what's it about? Well, the show is about a monster, played by Tsukasa, that is introduced as a creature who wants nothing but fun, indifferent to whoever it hurts in the process. The monster goes into a town disguised as a human, just to see if there will be any fun there. While in the town, he meets a bard, played by Emu, and he is utterly enchanted by her music. He takes him as her apprentice, and she teaches him how to sing in a way that touches people's hearts, and he begins to like the way bringing the townsfolk happiness feels. However, a hunter, played by Nene, comes to town, looking to find and kill the monster. She finds him at night as he's contemplating whether to leave town or not. When she tells him she's going to kill him, he simply laughs. He says that if his death brings peace to the world, then that's an easy price to pay. But then the bard runs to them. worried about her apprentice. The hunter tells her to go away because her apprentice is just a monster disguised as a human. But the bard refuses, saying that monster or no, her apprentice is still precious to her. This surprises the monster, and the hunter refuses to back down. The monster then reflects on his pleasure-seeking nature and how he can never change, but also wants to keep living, as he found the bard who accepts him. He thinks about how making humans happy had made him feel warm and that he's come to cherish them. He offers to give anything at all in order to atone for his wrongdoings. The hunter refuses once again and pulls out her gun and shoots him in the leg. The bard begs for her to stop, but the monster says if he can't be believed, if him dying brings peace, then this is fine. The hunter stops and treats the gunshot wound. The play ends ambiguous to whether this monster ever truly belongs among humans, but says that at least he isn't alone. There's a lot to unpack here with this being a show about Rui using his own feelings for it. But first, this event is yet another source of Rui being autistic. First of all, being really fixated on something and forgetting to eat or take care of yourself is something a lot of autistic people struggle with, especially since we don't often feel internal cues of hunger. And the metaphor of the monster who can't fit into human society is something that resonates with me and likely others like me, especially the whole business about the monster being unable to change from being anything else because he was born that way. He was born a monster, born unable to fit in with humans. No matter what you do, you can't just change the fact that you have a significant disability that affects the way you exist and think and interact with people. And it's not going to go away. It never will. You can mask. You can pretend to be normal, but you know who you are at your core. And the monster obviously represents Rui. The costume even has yellow eyes with red on the edges. I'd say it shows that Rui has a lot of trust in Tsukasa, having him play the role of a creature representing himself in more vulnerable ways than Rui would normally show. I kind of wonder how Tsukasa found a connection to this character. It was vulnerable to just have any of his friends perform that show, and it's good development for Rui that he's learned to trust his friends in that way, with his heart. It makes sense that the most vulnerable he's ever been is through the story of a show. Rui isn't good at feelings, especially his own. He is able to process emotions and experiences he wouldn't have otherwise through shows. This is, again, probably because he's autistic, so he's processing things through his special interest rather than how a neurotypical person might. The monster prior to entering the town represents Rui not having a way to connect with others and eventually not caring that he cannot. As a child, Rui felt different from his peers and had no way to connect with them, no matter how he tried. After discovering theater, he tried to connect with them through that, but that also fell through, alienating him even more. The monster no longer cared about trying to connect with the humans he couldn't fit in with, like how Rui gave up on making friends and embraced his insane image in middle school. Rui as a child in Revival My Dream gets very excited over the things he loves, but Rui acting insane in the present or in middle school, from the little we've seen, is him leaning into his reputation, both for the fun of it, but also as a defense mechanism. If people make comments about his insanity, it's not because of his genuine, unguarded self like in childhood, but because of how he intentionally presents himself. The monster hurting others could indicate that Rui sees himself being bullied was partially his fault for being too pushy about what he wanted and forcing his interests on people in the past, as mentioned in It's On, Wonder Halloween, and Ode to a Pure Heart.
And also, of course, because he was viewed as dangerous.
Obviously, he did need to learn better boundaries, but he didn't deserve cruelty. When he talks about it, though, he frames it more as if it's more about him than the other people. As I mentioned before, Rui is probably autistic, and therefore had difficulty understanding social stuff like trying to aggressively talk other people into liking your interest doesn't work. I'm partially using my personal experience for this interpretation, because understanding those kinds of boundaries is still very hard for me, and this was even harder as a child. What does the bard represent? Wonderland's time showtime, and the other friends he makes throughout the game's story that accept his oddities. Learning to sing songs that resonate with people seems to represent theater, his art that he wants to use to unite the whole world. The monster finally being able to connect with humans through learning music makes me think of how Rui used to feel like theater was the only thing that could connect him to others, as opposed to during everyday life. He felt his art connected him more to the rest of the world than his being did, although thanks to Tsukasa and everyone else, that has changed. The goal of making a show that resonates with everyone, no matter the circumstances, stuck with Rui for a reason. The world isn't exactly made for him, hasn't been kind to him, but he wants to connect with the rest of the world, wants to make something beautiful for anyone and everyone. The monster beginning to feel a warm feeling in his heart from bringing people joy with the bard is like Rui growing happier with his friends and making shows together after the loneliness of middle school. Who he was at his core, his oddities and habits and behavior didn't change, but being able to be accepted for who he is allowed him to change his outlook on life and relationships. So, what does the hunter represent? In my eyes, the hunter is a fear of the future. She represents what could come after the disbandment of Wonderland times Showtime. Sure, the monster has found the bard who accepts him, monster or not, who appreciates when he does something unexpected. Sure, he can make beautiful music, but he's still an unnatural creature. He's still weird. And not everyone is going to accept that. Not everyone is going to be kind like the bard. The hunter still shot him, didn't she? Even when he's not being a threat, the world will still hurt him because he's a monster, never mind that he never chose that. And that will never change. Rui is scared of everything going back to the way it once was after Wonder Show disbands. Previous disbandment fears have seemed more centered around just the idea of not being with these people who mean so much to him, and generally being alone again. But this fear isn't something that's been touched upon before. The fear of everything going back to the miserable way it was after the inevitable disbandment. The fear that maybe, without being surrounded by the safety of his friends, he's still a monster who cannot change. This change in him, this happiness, could be entirely dependent on circumstances he knows can't last, no matter how long he's extended their time together. What is he so scared of becoming once again? And why does he fear it so much? We need to talk about middle school Rui. Middle school Rui, despite being often explored in the fandom and very important in Rui's storyline, appears one other time outside of two flashbacks, that being his brief appearance in the Fragment Sekai. Also, in both flashbacks, they're not Rui's memories. The first is Nene's memory, and the other is Mizuki's. Rui never recalls his own experiences. Likely, it's too uncomfortable. He doesn't want to look, after all. Speaking of the Fragment Sekai, middle school Rui there is resigned, not caring about the idea of being forgotten. He's lost the fire he had as a child. We don't know much about middle school Rui. We know he pushed Nene away, thinking it was for the best, that he became friends with Mizuki on the rooftop, that he was lonely and acted like he was fine with that, which was likely him just trying to convince himself, considering how much happier he is once he finds his people. In every memory flashback, he is smiling, but we know the carefreeness was probably a facade based on Nene remembering him with a miserable expression on his face. You may notice I haven't mentioned one of the monster's most striking lines. If my death can bring peace to the world, that's a cheap price to pay. It's heavily implied that Rui's mental health really suffered in his middle school years, basically that he was probably struggling a lot with depression, but no real elaboration on specifics. This one line drops a bombshell. Did Rui, as they refer to it in Project Sekai, want to disappear? Based on this, yes, or at the very least, he believes the world would be a better place without him in it. This also recontextualizes Rui pushing away Nene. I'm doing fine on my own, and it's for the best anyway. It's entirely possible one of the reasons, outside of not wanting his social status to contaminate Nene's, he pushed her away so that it wouldn't hurt his dear childhood friend as much if he were to disappear. I've seen a lot of bad takes, namely on the only social media I have, Pinterest, regarding middle school Rui. Yes, he shouldn't have pushed Nene away, but he was like 12. 12-year-olds are children. Sorry for the 12-year-olds watching this, but you are a child. He thought it was for the best because he was a child and not in his right mind. Nene too, she was also a child. It makes sense she didn't know what to do or how to help him. And no, his hair from then is not better. It is tangled and likely greasy because he was depressed and didn't have the energy or motivation to care for it. It means something that only Rui and Mizuki are the only characters who have hairstyle changes from middle school to the present time. We wouldn't want Mizuki's hair to be like it was back then. Why would we want Rui's depression hair back? Anyway, Tangent aside, Rui is uncomfortable with his middle school self because of all the messy and dark emotions, and probably also guilt over distancing himself from Nene, which hurt her, so he doesn't want to look. Now he has, and it seems he doesn't ever want to be that way again, but is afraid that he's still that kid without Wonderland's Time Showtime around him. That's why the ending is kind of ambiguous as to how happy the ending really is. It's how Rui feels uncertain about the future. The monster is alive and breathing, and he wants to live, yes, but does he ever truly fit anywhere? No one knows. But for now, he isn't alone. He's so much happier now, so it's alright. Eyelid is a truly incredible song. I really think the lyrics especially show a lot about Rui as a character and what this event means for him. I will be going between using a translation from the Vocaloid Lyrics wiki and another one from a video that I will link in the description. From the crown of my head to the tips of my toes, I make use of it all without a bit of hesitation until the day I'm completely exhausted. This is like the way Rui throws everything into himself, into his creative work, making robots and shows. He uses everything, which can lead to self-neglect. The other translation says, until the day I completely collapse, as if this collapse is inevitable. My imagination always soars high. At the peak, a reason awaits me. Again, very creative, has a lot of ideas, we know this. I think it's saying he imagines until he finally finds whatever the right creative choice to make is. The truth is, I just don't want to let any of it slip away. That's him holding on to what he's referred to as the miracle that is the existence of Wonderland's Time Showtime for as long as he can. Even if I never wake up, I live so I can always start over again and again. There's something so radiant about putting everything on the line for a future that's uncertain. He wants to use everything he has to work for the futures of himself and his dear friends. He's using every day to the fullest. Also, an alternate translation is using my body as a wager, which is fascinating considering how little he eats and sleeps while working on the show. No, Rui, do not use your body as a wager. You need that. Depriving yourself of energy will actually make you less able to work on shows in the long run. An unknown, unseen beauty. Even if I can't grasp it, I want to make sure that it's real. I head towards the distant stars. The unknown, unseen beauty would be like achieving his dream. It's still distant, there's so much work to do, but he's determined to keep moving forward. Even if I'm haunted by regrets, I want to keep walking beside you with our steps matching. Even if the past is a heavy weight, he wants to keep moving forward alongside his friends to reach their dreams. There's about to be a blackout at any moment, magic is spilling out from the edge of the stage. Despite the fact that Wonderland's Time Showtime will one day have to disband, they're still creating magic together. Not my fault. The contraptions that were not chosen are being picked up. The "that's not my fault" seems like some sort of defense, the kind of panicked exclamation that's left me while defending myself from unkind people. Middle school Rui, perhaps? That may be a stretch. The other lyric seems to be he's using his contraptions in stories that he wasn't able to use in the past to make shows now. Also, he was somebody who would be considered not chosen, but now he's been picked up and has close friendships. I have no clue what as long as I'm alive I'll keep drifting on, or the limits of living is a flowing stream, and I don't know what either of these have to do with each other. So someone who knows Japanese maybe help me in the comments. Something is happening at this moment, but only ordinary words come to mind. This is Rui not understanding his own feelings, his inability to find the words for them despite knowing so many words, because he's autistic. My part was snatched away a little while back. A ghost is watching me from above my head. Middle school Rui. It's literally a middle school Rui lyric. My part was snatched away. He had no part in the cast of his peers. This part of the MV also shows how he was stuck creatively in this event, and the ghost is absolutely his past self considering the nightmare. My ideas won't ripen and change color, and it's so terrible I'm close to crying. This is a literal depiction of his frustration with himself while being unable to create a show in Rui 5. This song tells the story of the event extremely well compared to a lot of other commissioned songs. Like Cyberpunk Dead Boy absolutely shows his belief in theater as a genuine art in opposition to being commercialized, but what does that have to do with backlit lens flare exactly? A light that won't disappear, that can't be put out. Right now, it's crushing the darkness of the hollow void. The light of Rui's friends and being able to use his creativity can't go out, and it's made him so much happier and able to enjoy his life despite the pain of the past, and that I'm pretty sure, like, he still does have depression. Obviously, he's healed a lot since middle school, but that doesn't mean it's gone away. A combination of Rui being an unreliable narrator and Project Sakai not really caring about the mental illness of non-Night Court characters might present the impression that he's perfectly fine now, but that's not how it works, nor how it's written if you read between the lines. Now, I know that may sound like a reach, but the following lyric, "I want to finally arrive at the place that is not cold," is helped me reach that conclusion. Because that type of lyric about the place that's not cold is something I'd typically find in the Mafuyu Commission regarding, like, her being happy and finding herself. Through the support of Rui's friends and, like, his generally changed life circumstances, he's healed a lot. But it seems the place that is not cold is not entirely reached, but he's certain he'll get there. After all, he's come too far to give up, and he's much closer than he once was. Specifically, it says, using all this life that has been incinerated is how the place that is not cold will be reached. Maybe he's referring to how hard he's been working, or referring to the painful times of the past now being used as fuel to create during and after this event story. But I wonder if this is really the best choice. He's not seeking any additional support, he's not talking to his friends about what these shows mean, he's just taking his most painful memories and turning them into stories. Don't forget that this path won't change. Unbroken and forever connected, it becomes my sustenance. Directing is what he's resolved to do with his life. After all, it's what he loves, and because theater is one of his special interests, he basically runs off it. Okay, one of my favorite lyrics. Just pain alone, or simply ending it all, I don't believe that either of those are the answers. I love this lyric so much. It's again showing how much he's healed over time, because the monster shows that he may have once thought that the solution was death, and he seemed to resign himself to never fitting in, never leaving this pain of loneliness back in middle school. But he's healed and realized that neither of those are the answer, and he dearly wants to live. I want to carry half this burden with you. What will we invisible ones choose, and where will we go? He wants to be with his friends as long as possible, and wondering what the future holds is very important to this event, and I think that's what this lyric's about. In the last lyric, one way or another, I want to get to grips with it. Could this be referring to him finally looking at his past as something to be honored as a part of his life through his work, as opposed to something shameful? Now, the MV, oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. It illustrates the story of the event very well, and I'm really touched by the part near the end with Rui seeing the world joining hands, his dream realized. His friends surround him, smiling widely. It's just wow. It's such a representation of his joy after all that pain he's experienced, and how passionate he is about creating, whether it's shows or robots. In my eyes, Rui 5 has been very underrated compared to other events like Mizu 5 or Casa 6, but it's really important, and it's a deeply touching story that has become very close to my heart since its release. Thank you so very much for watching, and have a lovely day or night.